unfortunate. The other organizer, a gentleman, goes to hand the microphone to Harry again, and yet again, Meghan goes to take it, he holds it back and even laughs and says no, and then continues.
It's a charity thing. There were lots of A-listers there like Jeff Bridges and Rob Lowe and Pink, and you'll remember last year Meghan very much was their centre.
So the fact that Meghan was there last year and she was humiliated not once but twice, and it was all over the organisers not wanting her to have the microphone.
You know what's worse than crashing a party you weren't invited to? Crashing it twice, bringing your own photographer, and then making sure everyone knows you're there. That's exactly what happened when Meghan Markle showed up at Kevin Costner's charity gala. And what followed wasn't just awkward, it was career-ending.
Costner. Number one, Meghan didn't have to do any of that. She could have just stood there and had Harry pick it up.
Picture this, a warm Santa Barbara evening, string lights hanging over the venue, the smell of barbecue in the air. Kevin Costner's annual 805 Live concert isn't your typical Hollywood circus. There are no red carpets rolled out for A-listers desperate for attention.
Could be lots of reasons why she didn't go, but I think her being genuinely sick is at the bottom of the pile.
Yeah, indeed.
This is about something real, honoring firefighters, EMTs, and first responders who risk their lives daily. It's cowboy boots, cold beer, and country music. It's genuine. Or at least, it was supposed to be. But then Meghan walked in. Now, before we get to what happened that night, you need to understand, this wasn't Meghan's first time stirring up trouble at Costner's event.
Act of giving it to him, number one, it infantilizes him. It infantilizes him because she has to pick it up and she has to give it to him.
2 years ago, she attended. And let's just say the aftermath left organizers scrambling. According to people who were actually there, Meghan didn't just show up to support the cause. She tried to commandeer the entire evening. Reports surfaced that she attempted to grab the microphone, angling for her moment under the spotlight, while firefighters stood awkwardly in the background.
Come to Prince Harry in New York, where he is today, very shortly, but she's also not there either. So this was an opportunity for her to turn up with Harry.
The event that was meant to celebrate heroes turned into Damage Control Central, with staff working overtime to keep her away from the stage. So what happened next? Last year, when the invitations went out, Meghan's name was conspicuously absent. Not an oversight, not a lost email, a deliberate choice.
Rumors to rest. Quite significant that she decided not to do that.
Yes, there certainly seems to be, I would say, trouble ahead.
Kevin Costner and his team had apparently had enough. They wanted their charity event back, free from royal drama and self-promotion disguised as philanthropy. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? Most people, when they realize they're not wanted somewhere, take the hint and move on.
He doesn't want to do it. And it also pulls attention to herself because she didn't need to do any of that. If you are a self-assured adult, why do you need somebody else to pick up an award for you if you're going to walk to?
But here's where Meghan's story gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely baffling. This year, despite knowing the history, despite understanding she wasn't on the guest list, Meghan showed up anyway. And she didn't just slip in quietly through a side door. She arrived with Harry in tow, cameras flashing, and her personal photographer trailing behind like she was walking into the Met Gala.
Else. That's a very, very simple, should be a very, very simple gesture, but that Meghan all of a sudden makes it this thing where he has to interact with her in order to give it to her.
The audacity of it was almost impressive. Almost. People in the room immediately felt the shift. Conversations paused, heads turned. Not because anyone was excited to see her, but because everyone was thinking the same thing. Is she seriously here right now?
Really obvious that salt and pepper, as Meghan once said, no longer move together. They seem to be doing more and more.
The event was supposed to center on the people who run into burning buildings while others run out. The men and women who show up at 3 a.m. when your life is falling apart. These are people who don't seek attention.
It seems that Harry is the one being elevated. It's Harry being asked to go to events and not Meghan. She is still obviously on WME's client list.
They just do the work. But once again, their night was about to be hijacked. And then came the moment that nobody saw coming. Though, in hindsight, maybe we all should have. A young woman working the event approached Meghan before the show began.
Harry's almost being elevated and Meghan is being pushed into the background. Now, I can't see her taking that.
Her job was straightforward and professional. Gently remind guests of the evening's schedule and ensure everything ran smoothly. She wasn't rude, she wasn't confrontational. She was simply doing what she'd been hired to do. When she reached Meghan, her message was simple. There would be no microphone time, no speeches from uninvited guests.
Too well, to be honest with you. And as you said, he's in New York. It's only the first 24 hours of his appearances, and I'm sure that we will get a paparazzi.
Just a kind heads up to avoid any awkward moments later. At first, Meghan seemed fine with it. She smiled. She nodded. She gave every indication that she understood and would respect the evening's format. But then something shifted. You know that moment when someone's expression changes and you realize you've just triggered something?
Attention to her, and it also, at the same time, also infantilizes Harry. And then if you watch a clip, if you watch a clip, it's clear too that Harry is just kind of like, yeah.
That's what happened. According to multiple witnesses who were close enough to see it unfold, Meghan's demeanor transformed in an instant. The smile vanished. The polite nod became a glare. And then, in a move that left everyone frozen in place,
just the two of them basically, and then gives his speech, which is really, really funny because they're there, you could say, always to bring attention to themselves, and yet the guy who should...
She allegedly raised her hand and delivered a sharp, deliberate slap to the young worker's face. Not a theatrical gesture. Not an accident. A calculated strike that echoed through the space like a gunshot. The room went silent. Actual, dead silence.
Really, really hysterical. But at the same time, too, I feel sorry for Harry. I just feel like this guy doesn't know what to do anymore because he has to appease his wife in certain ways. And a lot of this is...
You know how rare that is at a crowded event? People mid-conversation stopped talking, glasses stopped clinking. Even the background music seemed to fade. Everyone within eyeshot stood there processing what they'd just witnessed, unable to believe it had actually happened. Some gasped.
Have to do. It's something that they have to do. Harry has to play this PDA game with Meghan anytime they're together.
Others looked away immediately, as if pretending not to see might somehow undo what had just occurred. A few pulled out their phones instinctively, though security was quick to remind everyone about the no recording policy. The young woman who'd been struck stood there, hand on her cheek, visibly shaken and confused about what she'd done to deserve that.
Hands are constantly having to touch each other. It just gets weird. And Meghan, too, you see this. She even mothers, you could say, other people.
Here's what makes this even more disturbing. Meghan didn't look surprised at herself. There was no immediate shock or regret on her face. No. Oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. Instead, she maintained this strange composure, as if slapping someone for delivering unwelcome news was just another Tuesday for her.
Watching some of these clips as well, and she would constantly have to touch people, forcing intimacy in a lot of ways. It's like, if I don't really know you, do I really want you touching me? Probably not. Especially if, like, I didn't...
Think about that for a second. You're at a charity fundraiser for firefighters, and the headline moment becomes a duchess allegedly striking a volunteer worker. How does that even happen? What kind of entitlement do you need to carry inside you to think that's an acceptable response to being told no? But the slap itself wasn't even the most telling part of the evening.
The selfie, I think she did put her hand on my arm, which was very, very sweet, but I didn't ask her to do that. I didn't force her to do that. I didn't do that girl where like harangued over Catherine's neck, because again, there's this balance.
What happened immediately afterward revealed something even more troubling about the dynamic between Meghan and Harry. Every eye in the room naturally shifted to Harry. This was his moment to step up, to intervene, to do something, anything, that would indicate he recognized how completely unacceptable his wife's behavior was.
Meghan Markle, sometimes these people aren't asking to interact with her. She's walking up the stairs and she has to rub somebody's arm.
Maybe pull her aside, maybe apologize to the young woman. At minimum, acknowledge that what just happened was wrong. But Harry did none of those things. He just stood there, hand hovering awkwardly on Meghan's back in this half-hearted gesture that screamed discomfort more than support.
And she constantly seems to want to be seen hugging everyone. And yes, certain instances, yes.
It wasn't protective. It wasn't authoritative. It was the posture of a man who's been through this exact scenario before and has learned that the path of least resistance is simply standing still and waiting for it to pass. People who watched it unfold described Harry's face as tight and strained. His jaw was clenched.
Arm, which was very, very sweet, but I didn't ask her to do that. I didn't force her to do that. I didn't do that girl where like harangued over Catherine's neck, because again, there's this balance between interacting with somebody. But Meghan Markle, sometimes these people aren't asking to interact with her. She's walking up the stairs and she has to rub somebody's arm.
His eyes had that glazed over quality you see in someone who's mentally checked out, because being present is too painful. He didn't speak. He didn't make eye contact with anyone. He just existed in the space, a shell of the confident prince the world once knew. And Meghan?
But there's a lot more. When I was looking through him, that he just looked grumpy. And I think it's because, yes, he appreciated Meghan's tactileness.
The second after the slap, she immediately reached for Harry's hand with both of hers, clinging to him the way a child grabs their parent after getting caught doing something they know is wrong. That desperate, guilty grip that says, "Please make this go away." She scanned the room with this mixture of defiance and panic, daring anyone to confront her while simultaneously terrified someone would.
He appreciated her seemingly mothering aspect because he lost his mother when he was young. So he's like, oh, okay, I like this. This is good. This is great. But now as time has gone on, I think it's wearing increasingly thin on him because
the body language told the entire story. Meghan knew she'd crossed a line, but she wasn't about to admit it. And Harry knew it too, but he'd been trained, or beaten down, enough to know that saying anything would only make things worse for him. His silence in that moment said more than any words could have.
Himself. He wants to lead this, and he can't lead the Invictus Games anymore because when she's there, he has to put all his attention on her.
By not stepping in, by not addressing what happened, Harry essentially became complicit. To everyone watching, he didn't look like a supportive husband standing by his wife. He looked like an enabler, trapped in a situation he no longer has any control over.
The whole time she was there at the Invictus Games, they always went to the same events, sat together and everything.
Now, if there's one thing Meghan Markle has proven herself exceptional at, it's crisis management. Not preventing crises, creating them, and then managing the aftermath. By the time most attendees were still whispering about what they'd witnessed, her PR machine was already working overtime to reshape the narrative.
And to me, if you are hosting an event, doesn't it make a lot more sense for you guys to go to separate events, to spread yourselves around more so you can be more welcoming to people? But no, Meghan Markle had to.
Within hours, not days, hours, publications like People magazine started rolling out carefully crafted stories about the event. But these weren't stories about what actually happened. They were fairy tales. The headlines painted Meghan as the gracious, supportive wife who stepped back to let Harry shine.
That their marriage is not necessarily in a good place. And that doesn't surprise anyone. These two people have nothing in common. Actually, I think I want to do a whole video looking at the Sophie Turner.
Articles described how she let him have his moment and supported from the sidelines. It was masterful fiction, because anyone who was actually there will tell you a completely different story. Meghan wasn't stepping aside. She was attached to Harry like she'd been surgically grafted to his side. Every movement was calculated.
Meghan's future. That could be definitely Harry and Meghan's future before too long. Because I imagine that their marriage, when they break up, it's not gonna.
Every smile was performed. Every glance was designed for whichever cameras she'd made sure would be there. The articles made her sound like she floated ethereally in the background, but witnesses described her as tense, controlling, and unwilling to let Harry take a single independent breath. And the alleged slap? The incident that everyone in that room saw or heard about? Not a single mention. Not even a vague reference.
Against him in the court proceedings. And if he wants to bring the kids to the UK, I don't know if he'll be able to. I don't know if she'll let him bring the kids to the UK. It'll just be so interesting and yet at the same time so sad to see where this all goes in the future.
It was scrubbed from the official narrative like it never existed. Instead, the press spun her uninvited appearance into something positive, transforming a woman who'd been explicitly not invited into a key figure of the evening. This wasn't accidental. This was calculated damage control executed with precision.
We had the Telegraph, we had a lot of mainstream publications, even the People magazine piece about them seemed to highlight, and this is one that Harry and Meghan gave to People magazine.
Meghan's team knew the optics were catastrophic, so they moved immediately to bury the real story under layers of manufactured sweetness. They flooded the zone with positive coverage, drowning out any whispers of scandal before they could gain traction in mainstream media. But here's the thing about the modern world. The internet doesn't forget, and people don't buy obvious PR spin anymore.
Careers are going in different directions. They're no longer salt and pepper. So all of a sudden at the Invictus Games event, all of a sudden we have to be salt and pepper. We have to be there together all the time, every day, holding each other, holding hands.
Social media exploded, with eyewitness accounts, anonymous reports from people who were there, and mounting skepticism about the glossy magazine coverage. The gap between the official story and what actually happened was so wide that even casual observers started asking questions. And in that gap, the truth started to emerge.
I think as things get worse, she kind of gets more manic and excited about different things just to continue to push her narrative. Because we saw this a bit in her interaction with I guess it was the Nigeria.
You know who really got lost in all of this? The people who actually mattered that night? The firefighters who'd pulled families from burning homes. The EMTs who'd performed CPR on strangers at 3 a.m. The first responders who'd missed their kids' birthdays because someone else's emergency came first.
I had to go to Nigeria as far as I'm aware. Yes, you might be part Nigerian, but you're not like getting on a plane and immediately flying over there and trying to connect. It just seems like more of a stunt than anything.
These were the people Kevin Costner had organized the entire event to honor. These were the people who deserved the spotlight, the recognition, the gratitude. Instead, they got pushed to the margins of their own celebration, while tabloid drama consumed all the oxygen in the room. Even Kevin Costner himself.
Fashion, with the actions, with, trying once again to sell that her and Harry are in love. If people who are really in love and truly in love,
who'd spent months organizing this fundraiser, pulling together musicians and donors and sponsors, couldn't escape being overshadowed. Normally, he'd be praised for his dedication to such a worthy cause. Stories would focus on how much money was raised and which first responders were recognized.
Because they experience it. So why do they need to sell it to other people? They know it. They don't have to perform it. They don't have to be performative about it. They're it.
Instead, the next day's headlines were hijacked by royal scandal, and the charity became a footnote. It wasn't just inappropriate. It was offensive on a fundamental level. Imagine dedicating your entire life to saving others. You train for years. You run toward danger while everyone else runs away.
So Harry and Meghan's very performative aspect, I think, just highlights how much in a bad place they are in their relationship. When it comes to
you see things that will haunt you forever, but you show up anyway because someone has to. And then finally, your community throws an event to say thank you, to recognize your sacrifice. You get dressed up, bring your family, feel proud for one night.
A long time. So we saw this as well in polo game that Harry.
And then a duchess with a personal photographer and a PR plan steals your moment to create content for her own image rehabilitation campaign. That's what happened. That's what Meghan turned this event into. The first responders barely got mentioned in the coverage. Their stories went untold. Their sacrifices went unrecognized beyond that room.
Where it was like a charity event, they did some sort of English theme, so it was like riffing off polo in England. So there were hats, like a Pretty Woman theme. It was just sort of ridiculous.
Because Meghan Markle needed to make sure everyone knew she was there, invited or not, wanted or not. Now let's talk about patterns. Because what happened at Kevin Costner's charity wasn't an isolated incident. It was the latest entry in a growing list of concerning behavior that keeps following Meghan wherever she goes.
Trying to poke fun at Harry's connections to the UK, while not at the same time. It was very weird, but at the end, Harry and his team, they win.
Remember the stories from Kensington Palace? Staff members who worked with Meghan before she and Harry left the UK didn't exactly hold back once they were free to speak. Multiple reports described her as demanding, temperamental, and difficult to work with. These weren't tabloid inventions. These were corroborated accounts from people who had nothing to gain from lying.
Anyway, so they're on this dais, and she goes and she gives, some of the guys a hug, and then of course she has to kiss Harry on the lips, because this is a...
Then there were the whispers about her temper behind closed doors. Stories of emails sent at 5 in the morning demanding immediate responses. Accounts of staff members in tears after interactions with her. Reports of such high turnover in her team that people started calling it the revolving door situation. And what happened at Kevin Costner's charity? It fits perfectly into this pattern. Slapping someone at a fundraiser isn't just a lapse in judgment, it's a display of dominance. It's saying, I'm in control here and you'll do what I want.
Do a side kiss or anything. No, it has to be full on the lips. And then she walks to the side and she looks and she realizes she got some lipstick on it, and she goes and she does like this gesture, like licks her finger. And
it's the same energy that had her at war with the British press, feuding with her own family and clashing with palace officials who'd been managing royal PR for decades. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time there's drama, who's standing in the middle of it? Meghan. Every single time. Whether it's allegedly making Kate Middleton cry before her wedding, rejecting centuries of royal protocol because it didn't suit her preferences, or walking into American high society with her own rulebook and expecting everyone to adapt, chaos follows her like a shadow. Critics argue this is the real Meghan, the one that exists when the Netflix cameras aren't rolling and the carefully staged photo shoots are finished. A woman who won't hesitate to throw down when she feels slighted, even at an event dedicated to honoring people who save lives for a living.
And I'm like, doesn't a mother do that to her 5-year-old? Doesn't a grandma do that to maybe the grandchild? Like, I feel this, I see this scene in movies. Maybe it was in Christmas Vacation or something, where the grandma does the kiss and she's like, oh, sorry, honey.
And that's the truly dangerous part. Because if Meghan's aggressive behavior keeps surfacing at the wrong times, in the wrong places, she's not going to be battling palace insiders or tabloid journalists anymore. She's going to be burning bridges with people she'll actually need. Hollywood power players, charity organizations, the American public who was initially sympathetic to her story. You can only cry wolf so many times before people stop listening. You can only create so much drama before people stop inviting you. And Meghan might be about to learn that lesson the hard way. If Meghan thought Hollywood would always embrace her with open arms, she might want to reconsider that assumption. This is an industry built on image, and reputations are made or destroyed through whisper networks that operate faster than any PR team can control. One messy night can change everything in Hollywood, and Meghan's behavior at Kevin Costner's charity event was exactly the kind of mess that makes producers, agents, and A-list celebrities run in the opposite direction.
Older, and obviously Meghan is older than Harry, but it's just a very, very...
Think about it from their perspective. You're a major Hollywood player, considering whether to work with Meghan or invite her to your event. Then you see headlines about her allegedly slapping a charity worker at a fundraiser for firefighters. What goes through your mind? Probably something like, do I really want to deal with that potential nightmare? Because to Hollywood power brokers, Meghan's slap wasn't just a personal mistake, it was proof she's a liability. Nobody wants to share a red carpet with someone who might overshadow the actual cause, steal focus from the event, or worse, become the headline for all the wrong reasons. When Meghan and Harry first left the UK, Hollywood showed curiosity. Oprah gave them her platform for that explosive interview. Tyler Perry opened his home to them. Netflix threw money at them for content. There was genuine interest in what they might bring to the entertainment world. But that curiosity is evaporating fast. The invitations are coming less frequently. The spotlight is colder. And those whispers about Meghan being difficult? They're not staying in private conversations anymore. They're floating to the surface where everyone can see them. The charity slap wasn't just bad optics. It was confirmation of what insiders have been quietly saying all along.
We've seen replicated in movies 1,000 times, and there's a way to do that and maybe is subtle. There was actually a really cute bit in an interview.
Meghan can't help but bring the drama. She can't help but make everything about herself. And in a town where image is literally everything, where one scandal can end a career overnight, Hollywood doesn't forgive that easily. The industry has seen this story play out 1,000 times before. Talented people who can't get out of their own way, people who create more problems than they're worth, people who burn through goodwill faster than they can rebuild it. And Hollywood always makes the same decision. It's not worth it. If the entertainment industry collectively decides Meghan is more trouble than she's worth, she might find herself on the outside of the very circle she fought so desperately to break into. And once you're on the outside in Hollywood, getting back in is nearly impossible. Let's talk about Harry for a minute. Because watching him at that event was like witnessing someone's soul leave their body in real time. He looked like a man trapped between two worlds. And honestly, isn't that just his entire existence now? On one hand, he's trying to be the loyal, supportive husband who stands by his wife no matter what storms she creates. On the other, he's still a prince raised in a culture of duty, dignity, and never, ever causing a public scene. Watching Meghan allegedly slap someone at a charity event, that had to be his absolute worst nightmare come to life. Witnesses described his body language that night in painful detail. Hands shoved deep in his pockets like he was trying to physically restrain himself. A stiff, frozen smile that didn't reach his eyes. That glazed-over expression he gets when he'd rather be literally anywhere else on Earth. This wasn't the confident, charismatic Harry that the world fell in love with. This was a man desperately trying to hold himself together while his wife demolished yet another bridge. The real question is, how much more can he take? Because every scandal, every incident, every dramatic headline pushes him further from the life he once knew. Every controversy puts more distance between him and the royal family, making reconciliation increasingly impossible. Every drama pulls him deeper into Meghan's world, where chaos is the only constant. And the deeper he goes, the harder it becomes to find his way back out. It's like watching someone sink in quicksand, and the more they struggle, the faster they sink. You can see it in his eyes now. That light that used to be there, the mischievous, genuine joy, it's dimmed. He looks tired, worn down, like a man who's been through the same cycle so many times that he's lost count. Stand by Meghan. Watch drama unfold. Deal with fallout. Repeat. The saddest part, Harry probably knows exactly what everyone else is thinking. He's not stupid. He sees the reactions, he reads the coverage. He knows his wife just allegedly struck someone at a charity event for first responders. But what can he do? Contradict her publicly? Leave her? Admit this whole thing was a mistake? Those aren't really options for him anymore. He's burned too many bridges, said too many things, made too many accusations against his own family. There's no graceful exit from this situation, so he just keeps standing there, hand on her back, waiting for the next storm to pass. The aftermath of what happened at Kevin Costner's charity event is still rippling outward, and the damage is far more extensive than one embarrassing night. For the charity itself, this was a disaster. Instead of headlines celebrating the money raised for first responders, the press ran wild with Meghan's drama. Donors started complaining that their contributions were completely overshadowed. Some even questioned whether they'd attend future events if there's any chance the circus might return. That's not just embarrassing for the organization. It's financially devastating. Fewer donors means less money for the people who actually need it. For Meghan, the consequences are mounting in ways her PR team can't spin away. Hollywood insiders aren't just whispering anymore, they're speaking openly about her being radioactive. Every scandal makes her less of an appealing collaborator and more of a risk nobody wants to take. Red carpets, brand partnerships, speaking engagements, these opportunities don't disappear all at once. They fade slowly, quietly, until one day you realize your phone isn't ringing anymore and nobody's returning your calls. And then there's Harry, caught in the middle of a disaster, partly of his own making. He's trying to protect his wife while secretly knowing the damage is real and getting worse. Every incident drives a deeper wedge between him and the royal family, making any chance of reconciliation more distant. The palace may not say it publicly, but you can bet they're watching all of this thinking, "We tried to warn him." But this fallout isn't really about one slap at one charity event. It's about the bigger picture that's emerging. A couple who keeps finding themselves at the center of controversy. A pattern of burning through goodwill faster than they can possibly rebuild it. A reputation spiraling downward while they seem either unable or unwilling to stop it. If Meghan keeps turning charity events into tabloid scandals, if she keeps making everything about herself regardless of the actual purpose of any gathering, the Hollywood dream she fought so hard to claim might vanish completely. And once it's gone, no amount of PR spin or carefully staged photo shoots will bring it back. Because Hollywood, for all its forgiveness of certain behaviors, has one rule that's absolute. Don't make yourself more important than the work. Don't become the story when you're supposed to be supporting the story. And definitely don't slap charity workers at fundraisers for first responders. Meghan broke all those rules in one night, and the industry is watching to see what she does next, knowing that whatever it is, it'll probably be dramatic, probably be controversial, and probably be all about her. The question isn't whether there will be consequences. The question is whether Meghan will recognize them before it's too late to change course. But based on everything we've seen, that moment of self-awareness seems unlikely to arrive. And that's the real tragedy here. Not just what happened at one charity event, but what it reveals about a pattern that shows no signs of stopping.